Hello everybody, my name is Jared and today's video is going to be a speed paint, and today's speed paint is in celebration of Valentine's Day itself. It is one of my favourite holidays, not purely because of romantic reasons. I am engaged, I do have a partner that I'm with, but I love the concept of a holiday that centres around love and things like that. I know that a lot of people don't like it because they feel like it's very commercial and very capitalist, which I do understand, but I like the idea behind a holiday that is about celebrating love in all of its forms and not necessarily just all about romantic love. This video is going to be a speed paint of my Valentine's Day update for my comic. If you have been following my comic, you know that my comic does also have seasonal updates, which are non-canon little events that happen inside the comics universe. When I say non-canon, I don't necessarily mean that it's not something that could happen, it is something that has not happened at the time of the actual events of the comic. Now don't get me wrong, I do actually avoid very heavily the spoiler element of these. I try very hard not to have any, I would say big spoilers or spoilers that are going to affect things going on into the comic. It might have teasers towards characters that haven't been introduced yet, like I did have the Christmas and Halloween episodes kind of hinted at a character that is going to be coming into the comic soon. So you've seen him, but you won't really know who he is or anything about him, just kind of seeing the character design. Which I don't think is a big issue really, spoiler-wise, because I actually have shown his character design and pretty much all of the character designs for the main group of the I'm a Criminal cast. I've shown all of those on my TikTok as well. I have also shown them on my YouTube in their development phases as well as their portraits. If you do want to see those videos, they are on my art playlist. So yeah, that's going to be what the focus of this video is. This also gives you a good idea of how I do the seasonal update layouts. They are a little bit different to my actual comic pages because I do the comic pages as individual pages and then post a few of them at once. I do try and plan out ways that they would look nicest together in the single panels, but in this format I actually follow the WEBTOON format, which is I make a very big long post and I sketch the panels into that and then split up that post. People are often very confused by this layout system. It's actually very simple. I just take a big long file and I sketch out all of my panels into that file like you would a normal comic page, and then I do treat it like a very long comic page. Once I finish all of the artwork for it, I then split it up separately in Photoshop later on. All of my updates for my comic are done in Procreate. Pretty much all of my art is done in Procreate at the moment, but I do have Photoshop and the Photoshop suite to try and do stuff like formatting, video editing, that kind of stuff. So yeah, basically the first stage is just sketching out. I didn't have a very clear idea of what I was going to do with the Valentine's Day update, so it took me a little while to get my head around what I wanted to happen. I wanted the focus of this one to be Briar because the other two updates were kind of more about the group, but they did have a little bit of focus on Baitor, and this one I think would be fun to have for the Valentine's update my main character technically, which is Briar. Briar is somewhat emotionally immature. It hasn't really been addressed in the comic that much other than her reactions to stuff like the mushrooms, but Briar has not actually been out in the world very much and hasn't experienced things like Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas, that kind of thing. All of these holidays exist in universe, but they do also have other days to do with love and romance and things like that. That will be addressed a lot later in the comic. But for the Valentine's update, I wanted to centre it around the actual Valentine's holiday and show Briar reacting to some of the amazing things about Valentine's Day. I don't want to be too clear about the plot of the comic page because I want it to be interpretable, and I think actually it's quite clear to read yourself if you read the page, which you definitely should go and read my webtoon. I will have links for the webtoon in the description as I always do. But Briar is also a massive sucker for sweets. she hasn't had much access to sweet or indulgent food, so the idea of cake and things like that is very exciting to her. I liked at the ending of the page to have this cute little moment with Nat and Beetle where they have gone off and snuck in and got her a cake to treat her for Valentine's Day. I really like their dynamic together. I think that they are a really cute trio, and I think it's really nice to feature a little bit of platonic love in these little updates. As for the process, you will have seen most of it, but my process is very, very simple. I sketch out my panels, I then do a slightly more detailed sketch usually, and then I will lower the opacity of all of the sketchwork and put in the frames first of all. I know a lot of people really hate people doing the framework before doing the artwork, but it just gives me a better boundary of where my art has to finish and things like that. So I do the frame first, then I will usually do things like the text bubbles. A lot of people are really confused by that order as well. I do the text bubbles so I know what of my artwork is not going to be visible, so I'm not cutting off something really important in the artwork. I need to know exactly how much space I'm going to have for my text bubbles and how much space I'm going to have for art, and if I have to cut back on one of them, at least I know at that stage and I don't have to do some really, really pretty actual ink work and then realise, oh no, I can't actually see half of this. I've also been trying to streamline my process a little bit more. A lot of my biggest grievances with making comic updates, especially a comic that updates twice a month, is my artwork is very, very, well, more my line art. My line art is very, very detailed, especially with stuff like the hair, and it can be really, really irritating to try and ink a really big amount of kind of detail and then to put it in a comic panel and look at it and realise that somebody's going to look at this for 4 seconds. It is true, one of the biggest things that I've been experiencing for my comic and have been a big learning curve for me is people don't look at your comic pages as long as you would think they would. You stare at this comic page for hours and hours and hours trying to finish it, and I guarantee you at most somebody's going to look at this comic page for maybe 5 minutes. And I mean like somebody who really, really likes it and wants to have a proper good look will look at it for maybe 5 minutes. I was expecting people to treat artwork the way that I treat my own artwork, which is to be really analytical with it, and nobody does that. They're reading it so that they can get the story out and see your pretty artwork, and it doesn't have to be as good as you think it does. I'm not saying that your artwork should be slapdash and like really, really thrown together, but does it really matter if that one hand is a little tiny bit wonky and you've been trying to get it right for the past like 6 hours and it's just not happening? No, doesn't matter. Just move on. Do the best you can with it and move on. I had that issue a couple of times with drawing this. One of the things I really, really struggled with was the panel where Briar has her hands pressed up against the glass. Those hands were giving me so much grief trying to get them to look like they're actually up against glass. And in the end I just did the best I could, and I'm happy with how it came out actually. When it was fully coloured, I think that they look okay. For Inkwork I also use technical pen, and I have it very, very, very thin. After ink I do all of my flat colours. That's a really, really, really quick thing, just like boom, 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 flat colours. And then I take a multiply layer. I do a multiply layer for every colour in the section. I don't do them all in one layer because it's just easier for me, so yeah, don't hate me. I like to make stuff easier for myself but also take a lot longer. And yeah, after I've done all of the multiply shading, the multiply I do is I do a normal multiply layer with a very, very, very pale like purpley pinky colour, and I just pop that on top of every single colour. I don't colour variation at all with my shading. Before that stage I also do stuff like gradients on hair, blusher and freckles, things like that. I also did a little bit of more colour gradienting and stuff for the Genasi. The Genasi is the girl with the fire hair in the middle. Genasi are a species from D&D, and she is a fire Genasi, which is sort of like, think of it like a fire elemental, kind of like that. I don't want to try and actually explain what a genasi is because I will probably do it badly, and there's a lot better sources for it. Just give it a little Google if you want to read more about them, but that's who the Baker Girl is in the middle two panels. She's not a main character. I've had a few people ask me if she's going to feature in the plot a lot. No, I'm afraid not. I know a lot of people really liked her design, but she's not going to be in the main cast. She is actually a character that might come up in one of my more recent actual campaigns, and yeah, I don't want to say too much about that because I might do something with that campaign, but she is also, however, going to feature at some point in the comic, just not as a main character. Yeah, and that is pretty much it. Once I've finished with all the shading and gradienting, that is the finished comic page. I will then upload that onto my webtoon and everybody can have a little look. It is actually available to be read right now as of posting this, so yeah, I hope people enjoy it. I hope you all have a lovely Valentine's Day, regardless of whether it's platonic or romantic love. I hope you have somebody to spend it with, and if you don't, there are people out there who love you very, very much. Thank you, and as always, remember to be creepy.